It is the week 4 edition of the Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate. I am Matt Barrie. Happy Sunday. Happy College Football Sunday. To recap that we do each and every week. First of all, so much to get to. Paul Finebaum will join us. We'll recap some of the big matchups. I'd say big picture, when you look at Saturday, there's a lot of hype coming in. There are a lot of games you were looking forward to seeing, and then they just really didn't play out in real time like we thought they would. So we'll get into all of that. Auburn, they go on the road and get beat by Oklahoma. Rock bottom for Clemson and Dabo Swinney. Florida made a push late, but Miami pulled ahead at the end of the game. So much to get to. But first, as we always do on the Matt Barrie Show presented by Allstate, we start the program with our Allstate Good Hands play of the day. And I mentioned Clemson a moment ago. Justus Ross-Simmons with an absolute kind of you got mossed situation, but more important than this for Justus Ross-Simmons and Syracuse, this was a tone setter for the game. And Jelly and Syracuse go right down the field and make it 7-0 because of this perfect catch by Ross-Simmons. They would kick a surprise onside kick. They would go up 10-0, and really just a foreshadowing of things to come for Syracuse over Clemson. We're going to get into all of that this morning. All right, here we are. Week 4, Matt Barrie Show presented by Allstate. The recap heard around the world with the great Paul Finebaum every Sunday morning. Paul, good morning. How you doing, friend?
Doing great. Just another predictable weekend is over, but that was a good one. But Matt, the one we have coming up might be one of the best we've had in a long time.
Oh, I mean, we're going to get to that because there are 3 matchups that just make my college football rage. Okay, so what were your thoughts? We'll get into the games like we always do, but just big picture, there were enough games on Saturday to kind of get you excited. But man, was it me or they were just all kind of okay? Everything was kind of just Auburn and Oklahoma at one point. Well, you know what? Here I go on my Sunday morning tangent. Forget what I'm about to do. Let's go to this, because to me, this is the biggest story now that I was going to ask you about Auburn and Oklahoma. An hour after the game, or an hour or so after, the SEC comes out and says that a touchdown that Oklahoma scored should not have been counted as a touchdown, but in fact should have been a 15-yard penalty. Okay, so not only did they butcher the scoop and score, they do this. Let's dive in there first. What do you make of this SEC officiating issue?
Yeah, I was out there, and when one thing I like about transparency is that it shows that you know what the rules are and you're not trying to obfuscate. That's what I like about it. The bad part, Matt, is Auburn fans are besides themselves. And how else should they be? It takes a little bit away from some of the ineptitude in decision making, and also just an absolutely miserable offensive performance. But unfortunately, and I know I'm bouncing around here, we have to live with this, and we can spend the rest of our lives analyzing officiating, but is that what we really want to do?
No, all right, I'm trying to figure out how to put this, because
go for it.
I'm with you, but okay, so I mean, Paul, let's think about this. That's 14 points off the board. Yeah. Well, what's the final score at that point? If you're Auburn, how are you not sitting here going, well, what the hell do you mean? You take 14 points away from Oklahoma, it's 17-10. Auburn wins.
Yeah, it was bad enough if you're an Auburn fan that you had a bad beat in the final minute of the game. I mean, you're going to lose the game, but you're going to win the bet, which isn't, it's not the perfect ending, but at least it's a better ending. And now everything goes away. I mean, it could not have been a worse weekend. And I'm in Birmingham today reading some of the reaction from the media. And I mean, they're piling on Hugh Freeze, which is understandable. But here's in the moment, this is it feels outrageous. Yeah. But a week from now, it won't make any difference. And it's really. And I'm not defending the SEC. I mean, officiating is terrible everywhere. I think we could. The only thing I like about the ACC is at least we hear it in real time.
Right? They allow you into that. their command center, operations center, so there is full transparency there. But as for the game, look, I cannot remember the last time where I watched what I believed to be a high-level offense and quarterback look so disheveled. He was sacked 10 times, Oklahoma program record. At least 8 players for the Sooners had a half sack. I never had trust that the ball was going to move. I was like, here we go. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, and I was with Brian Bosworth early yesterday morning, so maybe that was the precursor for the day that it was going to be a old Oklahoma defense. I mean, it was truly remarkable, and I think a lot of people, once you get over, if you're an Auburn fan, and I feel badly, and I don't think you can help but feel badly, but ultimately, you have another game, and I'll let them scream and holler all they want, but the problem for Auburn is how are they going to dig themselves out of this, especially with potentially a tougher game coming up against Texas A&M.
Yeah, and look, I think Hugh Freeze is a really, really good offensive mind. I believed in Jackson Arnold, but the missed throws he had yesterday, he had Cam wide open for a touchdown that would have just swung the momentum. And even with that, Paul, they grabbed the lead late, and Napier had to take Oklahoma down the field for a go-ahead touchdown. So it wasn't like they weren't in the game. It was just a weird game to watch. It's the only way I could say it. Weird game to watch. And now here we are the morning after, and I need to ask you, true or false, Oklahoma is a legitimate SEC contender on September 21st?
I am not going to be a prisoner of the moment, and I'm going to say false, Matt. I just, everything we've already talked about, their defense is elite, but let's give Auburn's defense some credit too. They kept their woeful offense in the game, and whether the officials should receive a credit or not, but ultimately, I don't think Oklahoma is one of the 2 best teams in the SEC. And part of the reason I don't think they'll end up getting there is their schedule. They have a Florida-like schedule, and they have not seen any. And Michigan and Auburn are in the middle of the schedule. I mean, they're going to Tennessee later. They're going a number of places, including Alabama. They have LSU later in the season. How do they survive that?
Yeah, in fact, I asked the same question to Joey Galloway last night in studio, and he did the same thing you did, run up the schedule. They have Kent State next week, or in 2 weeks. They have a bye week, so lay up there. But then they do Texas, at South Carolina, which now with the Gamecocks losing to Missouri. Then they go Ole Miss. This is the final 5 weeks. Ready for this? Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU.
Matt, the vibe out there and talking to Venables and everyone, they had to win that game just to keep momentum going because Venables has been tossed and turned with his status. He's out of that, but I've had a lot of questions even today about this issue, and I'm not being a hater. I just don't believe yet that they are a legitimate SEC title contender.
Right. You look at that schedule and you're thinking, oh, hell, this is going to get dicey for the last month of the season. But, they'll get another win this week or in a couple of weeks, get the bye week, and then we'll be able to assess Oklahoma as we sit here every Sunday morning. After we got done doing this show last week, Matt Barrie Show presented by Allstate, I'm not surprised that there were 2 firings because these jobs were – the UCLA was – when I say inept, that was being kind. Virginia Tech, stunned by how that thing can't get going again. Brent Pryde, Deshaun Foster fired. I bring this up because it just goes to show this day and age of college football, Paul, there's no such thing as too early to get rid of a coach now. And another morning, another loss. Yes, there was some fight at the end of this game, but Florida goes down to their rival Miami 26-7. And now they've lost 3 of their first 4 games to start a season for the first time since 1986. Mullen because he wasn't good enough. And now you're making the wrong kind of history. And what now with Billy Napier?
Well, he's on the slipperiest of slopes, Matt. I don't think he'll be fired yet because I'm not sure it accomplishes a great deal. I mean, his team played well. They were competitive, and they still lost by 3 touchdowns again to their rival for the second year in a row. And you've lived in Florida. I'm not going to give a manifesto here, but Florida and Miami literally hate each other. It's even different than Florida State because they haven't played they have not played every year. So I mean, that's intolerable and unacceptable. And Billy Napier has nowhere to go. I mean, he can keep talking about how much his team is gutting it out, but they're still losing. And guess what they have next? They have a bye week. I think they have a bye week, and then they have Texas and Texas A&M. So. Yep. The 4-game stretch that we've been talking about for months, they're already 0-2, and they lost a game before that started. So even if they won both games, they still have to deal with an impossible schedule. I mean, it's not going to happen. I'm going to quit trying to. I mean, I sit with Tebow every Saturday morning, and even Tebow yesterday picked Miami to win.
I'm just at an absolute loss for words. Billy Napier, everywhere he's been, has been a really good offensive mind. That's where his bona fides come in. DJ Lagway was the top-ranked dual-threat quarterback in the country that he came out. So the thing that they were saying was, well, if you put Billy with his quarterback of the future, they can grow this thing together. At one point, midway through the third quarter last night, they had 35 yards of total offense. They finished the game with 141 total yards of offense. It'd be different if Florida was out there going up and down the field and they were getting in these back and forth games and these, 34-30. But that to me is the biggest red flag, is that an offensive coach who's had success in the past with the number 1 quarterback in the country, there's no offense.
And there's also always something that goes haywire, Matt. I think there was 10 men on the field during a field goal attempt. I mean, there's you can count on that. I mean, Billy Napier, because he is the offensive coordinator, diminishes his opportunity to be a very good, if not great, head coach. He's not. He's a mediocre head coach. His record is 20-22. The fact that we're still discussing this as the possibility that he survives is a testament to what I'm not really sure. But the end is very near. However, Scott Strickland decides to do it and in what manner, I really don't know. And quite frankly, I don't really care. Billy Napier is not coming back as Florida's head coach.
And you're going to hear all the whispers of who, the what, the when, the why. I would say this, like, they're, Florida fans. We know Florida fans, how they react to things. And you just wonder now, you're right, bye week. Could they get Texas? I don't know, maybe. Arch looked good last night. It went for over 300 and a few touchdowns. I mean, I don't know. They both get a bye week. They both get a bye week to see if they can't figure this thing out. The offensive struggles to me are easily the most surprising because we saw them come on at the end of last year, and I just thought for sure another year with DJ, the momentum off the 8-5 season, I thought for sure there was going to be a way to get that thing going. It just has not been the case. Tennessee went and scheduled UAB 56-24. They get the win. They look dominant. Paul, when are we going to get into some? We'll get into next week in a minute, but when are we going to get into some really just good hardcore conference play? Like, I'm tired of these games where it's going to happen before kick.
Glad you asked that question, because this week we will. I mean, there are some really great SEC games this week, and when LSU Ole Miss is like the appetizer, you've got a good weekend. But last week felt like cupcake weekend in a way. I mean, it was just it was terrible.
Are you surprised by South Carolina? Are you surprised what happened in the Missouri version of Columbia last night?
Not after last week, but yeah. I mean, ultimately, if you go back 4 or 5 weeks, I mean, South Carolina fans and even other people were talking about them being a legitimate playoff team. Not quite to the degree of another school in South Carolina in the upstate area, but yeah, and it's coming undone very quickly and for a lot of reasons. And I mean, again, you want to talk about schedules? Take a look at theirs. I mean, they haven't really. I mean, they're not exact. They haven't exactly played the meat of the schedule with Vanderbilt and Missouri.
And that was kind of a theme yesterday, and this is where we'll pivot to Clemson, because there were so many teams at the outset of the season. And look, you know my stance on preseason rankings. I think they're stupid and a waste of time. Clemson was a top 4 team. South Carolina was ranked high. I think they were 11th going into the season. There were a number of teams that were ranked high in the preseason that appeared to be on their way out of the conversation. And that conversation stops and starts with Dabo, Swinney, and Clemson. 1-3 for the first time since 2004. They lack 0 punch. They can't get out of it. I can't remember the last time I saw a team that had so many returning stars come back and look like Clemson does after their loss to Syracuse.
And while some of these schools, Illinois being one, we built them up on hype. Clemson had legitimate players. That was not some manufactured situation. That was a great coach, great program, elite players on defense, either the best or second best quarterback in the country. And that's not according to pundits like me. That's according to people that study this stuff and make rankings for the NFL. So this is one of the hardest things to explain I've ever seen. When you look at the school, I mean, the first loss is understandable, but since then, there's simply no rhyme or reason. Now, I'm sure if you're sitting in the ACC office this morning in Charlotte, you're going, well, the reason is that the ACC is a very deep league. It is. No argument. But Clemson is your bell cow, and they can't even deal with the pedestrian schools in the league. And Syracuse is one of those. I was in Atlanta, 3 weeks ago, and saw what Tennessee did to Syracuse. It wasn't even a competitive game.
Would it shock you if I told you that, and first of all, with Dabo, the things that he's done for that program, historic and remarkable. National championships, built that thing into one of the elites. I don't know that he does himself any favors when he's doing what he does at the podium during the week, and then goes out and loses like that. I think he can stay there as long as he wants, or he can say, look, this thing's run its course. I'll do something else. But we watched them in studio, and EJ Manuel is with us now. He's an ACC guy, and even he's sitting there going, man, I can't explain it. I can't explain why they look the way that they do. And when you really get down to it, you just wonder how that can happen or where they went wrong.
There's a lot of reasons for this, but my advice to Dabo, and I know he doesn't like taking advice from people like me, is to get out of there. Be quiet, quit talking, because he has no credibility now with his fan base. I mean, they've heard the whines before. He's become a meme. He's become for a really good coach, and I do believe he's a really good coach. He's become somewhat of a laughingstock every time he opens his mouth. And it's time for him to do one of two things. It's either consider another school, and I think he is hireable if he quits talking, or just get away from football and become a TV guy. He's very funny. He's very glib. He's got more credentials than any other non-TV coach out there. And what I mean by that is Saban's already got a job. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about of the people that could leave coaching and going to TV. He would be very coveted. Or find some place to go. There will be a lot of openings, and you can sit when you introduce Dabo Swinney. It's not bad. It's not a bad look. I mean, Jimbo Fisher has done pretty well with leaning on one national championship. Dabo has a much better resume. So I think I think it's over at Clemson. Let's quit trying to sugarcoat it, Matt. Sometimes it's very difficult to get it back. When you've lost it, he lost it, he got it back. Now he's lost it again, and he's lost it badly, and it's time for him to go.
Yeah, because last year they started out shaky, and it was Tyler from Spartanburg that comes in, and from that, Clemson just quietly went on, won the ACC, went to the college football playoff, returned just about everybody. You're thinking, oh, here we go. They're going to be one of the best teams in the country, and that has just not been the case. Okay, I don't think this week was as great as we had hoped. I think the games on paper looked good, and then the games on the field played, and it was just okay. So I would love – well, real quick, and you kind of mentioned before we move ahead, Indiana. We said this on College Football Final, Paul. We wondered if they were a one-year wonder. That team, what they did to Illinois last night, there's a chance that Indiana is better than last year. And Galloway said it because I asked him on College Football Final. I said, should Indiana be mentioned in the same sentence as Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon in terms of Big Ten favorites? He went as far as to say they should be mentioned with Ohio State because the other two hadn't played anybody. And now we have to start taking Indiana football serious again.
We do, and nobody made more fun of Indiana than me. So I agree with Galloway. That probably was the biggest story of yesterday because I believed in Bielema. Maybe I bought in too much, and that's so easy to do. But it looked legitimate, Matt. So and the thing that you have to admire, it wasn't just a win. I mean, it was a complete annihilation. And that did a lot for that brand. Indiana will be taken seriously now.
Yeah, because we're in studio. Of all the games we're looking forward to watching, because we're like, oh, you get to see Indiana for the first time. Illinois is a top 10 team. Vegas has them as 7-point underdogs. You think, well, why? And every time they scored or Indiana did something, we were like, what is going on? Like, why are they this big of a gauntlet? And we're going to find out sooner or later. And I love the fact now they have a schedule that benefits them towards the end of the season. So Kurt Cignetti, they got Iowa next. When you talk about coaching vacancies, there were Florida people chirping last year about Cignetti after 1 year in Indiana. I can't imagine he's not going to be a guy that's going to be a hot commodity when all of these jobs come open. He
will be. And listen, it's one thing when you run your mouth in the offseason and get stuffed in the locker like Brett Bielema. I mean, he ran his mouth all off season. But Cignetti did too, and he backed it up. And you have to admire that. He has put himself in a great spot.
He is. And I hope the story continues. Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback's great. Omar Cooper Jr., one of the best receivers. They got a Surratt. They got everybody out there. So Indiana is going to be a fun team to watch. I do want to be the first to get ahead to next week after we got done recapping this week. You mentioned it. LSU, Ole Miss, 3:30 Eastern, ABC. We haven't seen much of LSU since the week 1 win against Clemson. I don't want to take anything away from them because I think they're a really good football team. But how does that win look now based on what we've seen from Clemson? I still think it's really, really good because they were on the road. But now this is what Brian Kelly geared up for. Garrett Nussmeier, everybody, to go against the Ole Miss team. And right now, Lane Kiffin starting Trinidad Chambliss, transfer from Ferris State. Quietly, Ole Miss is scary. This is a really, really, really good game coming up at the Grove.
Yeah, and to the national audience, get ready for a heavy dose of Lane Kiffin this week. He'll be featured in the middle of the week on ESPN on an E60 where you'll see a side of Kiffin you probably didn't think was possible. A 50-year-old, sober, someone with perspective and reflective. And he also has a great football team. And Matt, I don't mind saying it. That LSU win over Clemson doesn't mean much anymore. They beat a team that has lost now to Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and they didn't win by much either.
No, and that's it. Like now you're looking at who's going to be. I love the weeks we start learning about people, and we're going to learn both about Ole Miss and LSU. But I still think LSU, Harold Perkins, that defense, Blake Baker, and what they've done. I don't want Brian Kelly yelling at anybody about the offense anymore because it'll be an opportunity this week against that one. Point total. First look at that. I'm a bit surprised it's only 54.5. So if you're into that type of thing, I'd be keen to hop on the over. Another one, Auburn, Texas A&M. Last time out, A&M, Marcel Reed, final play of the game at Notre Dame to get the win. This will be a fun one to watch because how does Auburn bounce back, and is Texas A&M a legitimate top 10 team?
I think Texas A&M is, and this is really possibly the Waterloo for Auburn. You can't go on the road, as difficult as it is, and lose both games because you still have Georgia in 3 weeks, Alabama. You've got a lot left to deal with for what was a fair schedule for them. They also have Vanderbilt, which we can talk about some other time, but they look really good. So that's a big game. But Matt, I appreciate you burying the lead here. But it started last week on our show, and it's not going to calm down. There's a game in Athens that everybody has circled.
Yeah, that was next, because when you talk about what we're going to learn, this is and fine, call it hyperbole, call it what you want. I don't care what's happened before. I don't care about all the garbage that happened in week 1. I don't care about anything that's happened since. If Kalen DeBoer is to have some foundation in Tuscaloosa, no matter what, it comes down to Saturday in Athens. That's it. If this thing is taking, if he's got the program, if he's got the attention, if he's going to build this thing back to Alabama standards, this is the Saturday it all comes down to, plain and simple.
Yeah, and there's a mindset now in Alabama that they'll win this game, and that's great, but not great if they lose, because Alabama fans really do. This is going to sound ridiculous outside of the state of Alabama and Georgia, but they really do feel like they own Georgia, and there's justification for that, because since 2007, Alabama has only lost to Georgia 1 time in a season. And it was a rematch from a game that was played a couple weeks earlier. It was in the national championship game, and it's not insignificant. But so many other times, especially in Athens, Alabama has gone over there and won. And it's that program that Georgia doesn't is not subservient to anyone. But this is that one program that gets in their head a little bit, especially. And it was Nick Saban in Kirby's head. Last year, it was Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, remember that game. Remember how Alabama came out so dominant last year, and then all of a sudden Carson Beck and Georgia find their way back into the game and ended up being a classic. Do you have any early week lean?
Not yet. I've always gone with one axiom with Kirby Smart: don't go against them at home. Or pretty much anywhere for that matter, because he has come through as you and I know at the highest percent. I guess maybe a tilt toward Georgia on Sunday morning, but I really need to see how the week plays out for Kalen DeBoer, because I don't even know where the number is. I'm sure it's pretty narrow,
right.
But
it is Georgia -3.5.
Yeah, I mean that seems light, but Alabama fans look at the Florida State game now as maybe not as bad a loss as it looked like 3 weeks ago.
I'm telling you, the whole thing. I've never seen a situation that I can remember recently where the whole thing. You have one opportunity to shut everybody up and say we're good, everything's fine. So I'm excited for that one. Where's SEC? Are you guys going there, Athens?
I believe so. I haven't heard yet, but I think that would be deductive logic, wouldn't it?
With game day going to Oregon, Penn State, big one in the Big Ten. I'm fascinated by this one because those two teams really haven't played anybody. And James Franklin has their roster stacked to be like Michigan 2 years ago, Ohio State last year. This is a big one for him, too, for people to believe it's not going to be the same old Penn State.
Penn State was the narrative all during the offseason, Matt. And a week from this morning, if Penn State wins, they're going to be the narrative from this moment on, because we're going to go from the mega games that we're talking about right now, and then there's going to be one game left on the schedule. And you know what it is. It's Penn State and Ohio State.
Yeah, look, you're right. Mega games next week. We will be here next Sunday morning. We've been waiting for it. This week, you wanted to get up, and it just got sloppy. There was travel with Paul. There was weather. It was just one big – we had to do an hour-and-a-half show yesterday in between Clemson because there was the weather delay at the Clemson game. So we're up there filibustering for an hour and a half. It was just one of those Saturdays. But you know what? That's why we have one of those Sundays with you, the beautiful people. Have a Bloody Mary. Have a brunch. Yell at us all you want, but we'll be here each and every week. The Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate, recapping another busy weekend in college football.
You want this, you got that.